I never had a great relationship with my stepfather, Tom, 52M. He came into my life when I was 12, right after my biological father passed away from a sudden heart attack. It was a difficult time for both my mom, 47F, and me. We were still grieving when Tom entered the picture. My mom met Tom at a support group for widows and widowers. She was vulnerable and looking for companionship, and Tom seemed to provide that. They dated for about a year before getting married when I was 14. I remember feeling uneasy about the whole situation, but I wanted my mom to be happy, so I tried to be supportive. From the beginning, Tom treated me like I was an outsider in my own home. He never physically abused me, but the emotional neglect was constant and crushing. I vividly remember the first time I realized things weren't going to be okay. It was during the first Christmas after their marriage. Tom had bought expensive gifts for my mom and made a big show of presenting them to her. When it came time for my gift, he handed me a generic gift card with a mumbled "Merry Christmas." The stark contrast between his treatment of my mom and me was painfully clear. Growing up, I tried my best to bond with Tom. I would ask about his work as an accountant, offer to help with yard work, and even tried to learn about his hobby of model train building. But he always seemed uninterested or annoyed by my attempts. He would spend time with my younger half-sister, Lisa, 15F, who was born a year after their marriage. They would work on puzzles together or watch sports, but whenever I tried to join in, he'd find some excuse to leave or send me on an errand. My mom noticed this behavior, but she always brushed it off, saying Tom needed time to adjust to having a stepdaughter. She would try to compensate by spending extra time with me, but it wasn't the same. I could see the strain it put on their marriage, and I started to feel guilty for causing problems. As the years went by, I learned to keep to myself. I focused on my studies and spent most of my time in my room or at friends' houses. I joined the school's drama club and threw myself into rehearsals and performances. It gave me a place to belong and express myself, something I couldn't do at home. Tom never bothered to attend any of my plays or show any interest in my life. When I landed the lead role in my senior year production, he didn't even acknowledge it. My mom came to every performance, but Tom always had an excuse not to attend. When I graduated high school, Tom didn't even congratulate me. At the graduation ceremony, he looked bored and checked his watch frequently. During the celebratory dinner my mom had planned, he spent most of the time on his phone, barely engaging in conversation. It hurt, but by then, I had grown used to his indifference. I chose a college close to home, partly because I was worried about my mom. Their marriage had become increasingly strained over the years, and I wanted to be nearby in case she needed support. Tom seemed relieved when I moved into the dorms, even though I still came home most weekends. Things took a turn for the worse when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer during my sophomore year of college. She had always been healthy and active, so the diagnosis came as a shock to all of us. I immediately took time off from college to help care for her. Tom was around, but he seemed more concerned with work and his own needs than supporting my mom or me. I remember one particularly difficult day during my mom's chemotherapy. She was feeling awful and could barely get out of bed. I spent the day taking care of her, making sure she stayed hydrated and comfortable. When Tom came home from work, instead of offering to help, he complained about the house being messy and there being no dinner prepared. I was furious, but for my mom's sake, I bit my tongue and quickly made a simple meal. As my mom's condition worsened, Tom became more distant. He would spend long hours at work or lock himself in his study at home. I took on more and more responsibility, balancing my mom's care with my own studies. It was exhausting, but I couldn't bear the thought of not being there for her. My mom passed away 6 months ago, and that's when everything fell apart. The last few weeks of her life were a blur of hospital visits and hushed conversations with doctors. Tom was there physically, but emotionally, he seemed checked out. When she finally passed, I was holding her hand. Tom was in the hallway, talking on his phone about some work issue. After the funeral, Tom changed almost overnight. He became cold and distant, barely acknowledging my presence in the house. 2 weeks after we laid my mom to rest, he sat me down in the kitchen, the same place where my mom and I used to have our heart-to-hearts, and told me I needed to move out. His words were like a slap in the face. Now that your mom is gone, there's no reason for you to stay here. You're an adult, and it's time you lived on your own. He gave me a month to find a new place. I was shocked and heartbroken. I had just lost my mom, the one person who had always been there for me, and now I was losing my home too. I tried to reason with Tom, reminding him that I was still in college and had limited funds. I had been working part-time at a local bookstore, but it wasn't enough to support myself fully. Tom didn't care. He said I was an adult and needed to figure things out on my own. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of panic and frantic planning. I reached out to friends and extended family, trying to find a place to stay. Most were sympathetic but couldn't offer more than temporary solutions. It was my best friend, Alex, 23F, who came through for me. She and her parents offered to let me stay in their spare room while I figured out my next steps. With no other choice, I packed up my belongings. As I was boxing up my things, I came across old photo albums and mementos from my childhood. Pictures of my biological father, my mom, and me in happier times. It hit me then that I wasn't just losing my current home, but also the last physical connection to my past, to my mom. The day I moved out, Tom was conveniently absent. He left a note saying he had a work emergency. Lisa was there, crying and confused. She didn't understand why I had to leave, and I didn't have the heart to explain the full situation to her. I promised to stay in touch and hugged her goodbye, feeling like I was abandoning her too. Over the next few months, I threw myself into my studies and picked up extra shifts at the bookstore to cover my expenses. It was tough, but I was managing. Alex and her family were incredibly supportive, treating me like one of their own. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being adrift, of not belonging anywhere. I cut off all contact with Tom and tried to focus on healing and moving forward. Lisa would text me occasionally, and we'd meet up for coffee when we could. She told me that Tom had become even more withdrawn at home, spending most of his time working or alone in his study. Last week, out of the blue, Tom reached out to me. He sent a text saying he wanted to talk and that he regretted how things had ended between us. The message threw me for a loop. Part of me wanted to ignore him, to continue with the clean break I'd made. But another part was curious about what he had to say. I haven't responded yet. I'm not sure if I should give him a chance to explain or if I should continue with no contact. Lisa has also been messaging me more frequently, saying Tom has changed and wants to make amends. But I'm skeptical. After years of emotional neglect and then kicking me out when I was most vulnerable, I'm not sure if I can trust him again. I'm torn between my desire for closure and my fear of being hurt again. The rational part of me says to keep my distance, but there's a small voice inside that still yearns for the fatherly love and acceptance I never received from Tom. Should I hear him out? Or should I continue to keep my distance and focus on building my own life? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1, it's been a month since my last post, and I wanted to update you all on what's been happening. After much deliberation and encouragement from Lisa, I decided to meet with Tom. We agreed to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop near my college campus that I used to study at before everything happened. The days leading up to the meeting were filled with anxiety. I found myself unable to concentrate on my classes, constantly running through potential scenarios in my head. Alex, bless her, listened patiently as I voiced my fears and doubts. She even offered to wait nearby during the meeting in case things went south, but I decided this was something I needed to do on my own. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Tom was already there. He looked older and more tired than I remembered, with more gray in his hair and deeper lines around his eyes. As soon as I sat down, he started apologizing profusely. He admitted that he had handled everything poorly after my mom's death, and that he regretted his actions. Tom explained that he had been struggling with his own grief and didn't know how to cope. He said seeing me every day reminded him of my mom, and it was too painful for him to handle. He acknowledged that it was no excuse for his behavior, but he wanted me to understand where he was coming from. As he spoke, I found myself remembering little moments from the past. Times when I had caught him looking at me with an unreadable expression, or occasions when he had abruptly left the room when I entered. I had always interpreted these actions as dislike or indifference, but now I wondered if there had been more to it. During our conversation, Tom revealed something I never knew. Apparently, shortly before my mom passed away, she had made him promise to take care of me. He said he felt like he had failed her by pushing me away, and the guilt had been eating at him for months. He pulled out a letter from his pocket, the last letter my mom had written to him from the hospital. In it, she expressed her love for both of us and her hope that we would be there for each other after she was gone. Reading my mom's words brought tears to my eyes. I could almost hear her voice, full of hope and love. It made Tom's subsequent actions even more hurtful, knowing that he had gone against her final wishes. I listened to everything Tom had to say, but I didn't offer forgiveness right away. I told him how hurt and abandoned I felt when he kicked me out. I explained the struggles I've been through trying to support myself and continue my education without any help. I told him about the nights I cried myself to sleep, missing my mom and feeling utterly alone in the world. Tom seemed genuinely remorseful. He offered to help me financially and said he wanted to try and rebuild our relationship. He even suggested family therapy for us and Lisa, acknowledging that his actions had affected her too. I left the meeting feeling conflicted. On one hand, I appreciated Tom's honesty and his effort to make amends. It was more than I had ever expected from him. On the other hand, I couldn't shake the feeling of mistrust that had built up over the years. Could I really believe that he had changed? Or was this just temporary guilt that would fade away, leaving me hurt once again? After the meeting, I talked things over with Alex and her parents, who have become like a second family to me. They've seen me through some of my darkest moments over the past months, and I value their opinion. They advised me to proceed with caution and not to rush into anything. Alex's mom, in particular, warned me about the cycle of abuse, where periods of remorse and good behavior are followed by a return to old patterns. I also reached out to my aunt, my mom's sister, who I hadn't spoken to in a while. She was surprised to hear about Tom's change of heart and advised me to be careful. She reminded me that I don't owe Tom anything, regardless of what promises were made to my mom. Her words helped me feel more secure in taking things slow. After much thought, I decided to take small steps. I agreed to occasional phone calls with Tom and to meet Lisa for lunch every couple of weeks. I made it clear to Tom that while I'm open to improving our relationship, I'm not ready to fully trust him yet. I told him that his past actions had deeply hurt me, and that rebuilding trust would take time, if it happened at all. As for his offer of financial help, I'm still unsure. Part of me wants to accept it because it would make my life easier. I've been struggling to balance work and studies, and the extra money would be a huge relief. But another part feels like it might complicate things. I worry that Tom might use financial support as a way to control me or to absolve himself of guilt. For now, I've told him I need time to think about it. It's a strange situation to be in. I never expected Tom to reach out or try to make amends. For so long, I had resigned myself to the fact that he would never be the father figure I needed. Now, I'm trying to navigate this new dynamic while protecting myself emotionally. Lisa is thrilled that Tom and I are talking again. She's been messaging me more frequently, sharing details about her life that she had held back before. I can tell she's hoping for us to become a family again, but I've gently explained to her that things aren't that simple. As for me, I'm trying to keep my expectations low. I'm continuing with my therapy sessions, which have been incredibly helpful in processing all of these emotions. My therapist has encouraged me to set clear boundaries with Tom and to pay attention to my own feelings throughout this process. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Thank you all for your support and advice. It's been invaluable during this difficult time, and I'm grateful to have this community to turn to. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have progressed with Tom. After our initial meeting, we've been in regular contact through phone calls and occasional meetups. At first, things seemed to be improving. Tom was making an effort to be more involved in my life. He asked about my classes, my job, and even attended one of my college presentations. It felt strange but somewhat nice to have his support after all these years. There were moments when I caught glimpses of what our relationship could have been like if things had been different. We had a few good conversations where Tom opened up about his own childhood. He told me about his strict, emotionally distant father and how he had always struggled with expressing emotions. It helped me understand him a little better, though it didn't excuse his past behavior. However, as time went on, some old patterns started to emerge. Tom began to make comments about how I should be grateful for his efforts and that I needed to get over what happened in the past. These comments usually came after I expressed hesitation about something or maintained a boundary. For example, when I declined his invitation to a family dinner at his house, saying I wasn't comfortable with that yet, he got upset. He accused me of dwelling on the past and not appreciating his attempts to make things right. It reminded me of how he used to dismiss my feelings when I was younger. Tom also started pressuring me to move back in with him and Lisa, saying it would be better for everyone. He argued that I could save money on rent and that Lisa missed having me around. While I appreciated the offer on some level, it felt like he was trying to erase what had happened, to go back to a normal that had never really existed for us. The situation with Lisa has become complicated too. She's caught in the middle, wanting us all to be a happy family again. I've tried to explain to her that rebuilding relationships takes time, but I can tell she's frustrated with the slow pace of things. The turning point came last week when Tom and I had a big argument. He had offered to pay for my textbooks this semester, which I reluctantly accepted after much consideration. But when I went to purchase them, I found out he had canceled the payment without telling me. When I confronted him about it, he said he changed his mind because he felt I wasn't appreciating his help enough. This incident brought back all the old feelings of mistrust and hurt. It made me realize that while Tom might regret his actions, he hasn't truly changed. He's still trying to control the situation and my feelings, just like he did when I was younger. During the argument, Tom said some hurtful things. He brought up my biological father, implying that I was comparing them unfairly. He also suggested that my mom would be disappointed in me for not trying harder to mend our relationship. Using my mom's memory like that felt like a low blow and brought back the pain of losing her. After this argument, I've decided to take a step back from our rebuilding efforts. I told Tom I need space and that I don't think it's healthy for us to continue trying to force a relationship that might not be possible. His reaction was a mix of anger and pleading, which only confirmed to me that this was the right decision. Lisa is upset with my decision. She thinks I'm being too harsh and that I should give Tom more chances. But I've explained to her that while I love her and want to maintain our relationship, I need to prioritize my own mental health and well-being. It's been hard on her, and I feel guilty for causing her pain, but I know it's necessary. I'm back to focusing on my studies and work. The semester is getting busier, and I'm grateful for the distraction. Alex and her family continue to be a great support system for me. They've assured me that I'm welcome to stay with them as long as I need, which has been a huge relief. I'm also considering joining a support group for people who have lost parents, as I realize I still have a lot of grief to process. My therapist suggested it might be helpful to connect with others who understand what I'm going through. This experience has taught me that sometimes, no matter how much we want things to work out, some relationships are better left in the past. It's a hard lesson, but I think it's an important one for me to learn. I'm trying to focus on the relationships that are positive and supportive in my life, rather than chasing after one that has caused me so much pain. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, but I'm feeling stronger and more confident in my decisions now. I'll update again if there are any significant developments. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this situation. A lot has changed in my life, mostly for the better. After I decided to step back from rebuilding a relationship with Tom, I focused on myself and my future. I threw myself into my studies and managed to secure an internship in my field of study, environmental science. It's been challenging juggling the internship with my classes and part-time job at the bookstore, but also incredibly rewarding. I'm learning so much and feeling more confident about my career prospects. Tom tried to contact me a few times after our falling out. At first, his messages were apologetic, but when I didn't respond, they became more accusatory. He even showed up at the bookstore once, causing a scene that almost got me in trouble at work. After that incident, I explained to him firmly that while I don't harbor any ill will towards him, I'm not interested in pursuing a father-daughter relationship. I told him that if he truly cared about my well-being, he would respect my boundaries. It was a difficult conversation, but I felt it was necessary for my peace of mind. Lisa and I have managed to maintain our relationship, although it's been a bit strained. She's struggled to understand my decision, but she's been respectful of it. We still meet for lunch occasionally and keep in touch through texts and calls. Recently, she confided in me that things at home with Tom have been tense. I've encouraged her to focus on her own goals and reminded her that she can always reach out to me if she needs support. The most significant change in my life has been my living situation. With the money I saved from my internship and part-time job, I was able to move into a small studio apartment. It's not much, but it's mine, and it feels incredible to have my own space. I've decorated it with photos of my mom and mementos from my childhood, creating a space that feels like home. I've also started attending a grief support group, as I mentioned I was considering in my last update. It's been incredibly helpful to connect with others who have lost parents. Sharing our stories and coping strategies has helped me process my grief in ways I hadn't been able to before. My relationship with Alex and her family remains strong. Even though I've moved out, they insist I come over for dinner at least once a week. Their continued support has shown me what a loving family dynamic can look like, and I'm grateful to have them in my life. Looking back on this whole experience, I realize how much I've grown. While it was painful to go through, I've learned valuable lessons about self-worth, boundaries, and the importance of surrounding myself with genuine support. I've also learned that it's okay to let go of relationships that no longer serve you, even if they're family. I still think about my mom every day, and there are times when the grief hits me hard. But I'm learning to carry her memory with me in a way that brings comfort rather than pain. I like to think she'd be proud of how I've handled this situation and the person I'm becoming. I want to thank everyone who offered advice and support throughout this journey. Your words of encouragement helped me more than you know. While this chapter of my life is closing, I'm excited about what the future holds. I'm focusing on finishing my degree, developing my career, and nurturing the positive relationships in my life. To anyone going through a similar situation, remember that it's okay to prioritize your own well-being, even if it means making difficult decisions about family relationships. Healing takes time, but it is possible. You're stronger than you know. This will be my final update on this situation. Thank you all once again for being there through this challenging time. Your support has meant the world to me.